think one of the most confusing things that I encountered when I first started using my silhouette, I just want to make cute t-shirts, are how do I go about doing it? What are the different styles? Like, what do I need to make a t-shirt? But the first thing you need to understand is what products are available and what tools you need to accomplish that. So let me show you some different examples of t-shirts and what the products were that I used to create each one. Okay, so I just grabbed like random shirts and some examples that I had laying around. So when you see a shirt you want to make, I'm like, okay, well, I want to make that. Okay, well, here's what you would need to make that. So the first example, this is, and honestly, I'm going to preface this by saying there's thousands of different ways to going about some of these styles, and I'll kind of point some of that out. This is a basic heat transfer. Okay, I cut it out with HTV heat transfer. It's single colors, a little bit of layering, not a complex design, very easy to accomplish. Over time, the HTV does kind of pull off sometimes. I mean, but I've had the shirt for a couple of years and I still love it. So this is a really simple design using heat transfer HTV. Okay, this is kind of stepping it up. So when you start looking at complex designs, this is not just ordinary heat transfer HTV, because you'd have to do like gray and black and all this kind of design. So this is a patterned HTV. So it's pre-patterned. You would pick out this style, you would cut this shape, heat transfer it like you would with regular heat transfer vinyl. And then same thing for here. I cut this out with just regular white heat transfer vinyl. So this is not a very complex style. Pre-printed design HTV, regular white HTV, layered. So you do get into a little bit of layering, and if it's not right on, I mean, you really can't tell, but it is something that you have to practice. I'm not going in any particular order here. This is rhinestones. Rhinestones, I think, are a lot of fun. They could be used individually as a design, or they can be incorporated into a design. But this is a whole other ball of wax, but it is kind of the same thing when you're using heat transfer. And I have a lot of videos on doing rhinestones. I actually love them. Didn't think I would, but I do. This is a more complex, and this one, honestly, I didn't do a great job with it. You have to cut these out carefully, and then you're gonna layer. So I used a foil, that's why it's a little shiny, I don't know if you can tell, a foil HTV on top of, it was supposed to be outlining the rhinestones. So you can tell I really didn't give it enough space, and it really could have had a little bit more in between each layer. But honestly, I can't tell if it's this far away, but this was my first attempt and I could have done that one better. What else I have? Okay, this is another example of a 2-color layer, and the heat transfer vinyl, this was a quick example of how I could layer it and how you layer the 2 colors. So when you're dealing with basic heat transfer vinyl and you're doing multiple colors, you don't want a complex design, because as you get into layering, it does take some practice. And this was a quick little example of that. And then other types of heat transfer vinyl that you'll find is glitter. And this is just my little junk shirt that I test different products on. So last but not least is sublimation. Now, typically you're gonna see sublimation references to being able to only do on white. You're not supposed to be able to do sublimation on black, but I'm gonna show you how. And it really is kind of an infusion of the ink into the material. Now, this was not a great example because the best sublimation is not going to be on 100% cotton, and I think I did 100% cotton on this one to test it, and it is faded, but it's the way to create multiple different designs without having to layer. It's infused in the fabric, and the best product to use with this type of sublimation was a polyester blend. And yeah, see, this was 50-50, so that's why it's gonna be a little faded, but honestly, it's pretty cute, pretty cool. Now, the other way to do sublimation is with this type of sublimation that kind of sits on top. So it's not an infused ink. This was a test, but it's like a solid piece. Now I can cut the edge of this, but this is definitely, you can definitely feel this. So when you're doing like a bigger piece, you're gonna feel this. I mean, it doesn't like not, I mean, it's not gonna pull, but you can definitely feel it. Probably no different than a vinyl, but if it's a complex design, you're gonna have probably a solid piece of this and you're gonna feel it more than if you were having like a vinyl that was sort of cut out. But you can do pictures, you can do like complete solid like photographs. And this obviously is on this black demonstration t-shirt. This was my little tiny test. All right, so those are kind of like the basics. There are definitely subcategories to all of those categories, but basically when you're talking about heat transfer vinyl, rhinestones, or sublimation, those are the types of styles that you're gonna see, and they all require sort of different tools. And I do a lot of videos on all the different kinds. So keep watching. You may find that you're like, no, I really kind of want the flexibility of sublimation, but you still might find use of having the silhouette because you're gonna cut out images and use your silhouette differently. So let's learn together. Let me show you how you can use all the products.